The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Our planet is our shared home, where we can all celebrate in its beauty, and we can all do more about making our home a better place together at the Earth Day Festival. Join us on April 13th at Balloon Fiesta Park. Family fun activities and energy experts on what you can do to take action now. Get your reserved tickets at earthdayfestivalnm.org. Our power, our planet. It's all at the Earth Day Festival.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Nothing like doing 500,000 things right before you go live. Sorry about that. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Happy to come to you tonight. Happy to be broadcasting. Let me choose a different word there for my Beavis and Butthead mind. Hope everybody's doing well. I'll introduce Ed first. He's a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. I hope I introduced myself. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing tonight?
You know, I'm doing well, Ryan. And you mentioned the voice of Western, and next week got a doubleheader on Wednesday softball, and then a doubleheader on Friday. And unfortunately, I'll miss the Lobo spring football game, but that's it. Season over after that. And my wife's already got honeydews to do, so I'll be busy. She told me I can't wait till Western's over. I've got some jobs for you, so got to get ready for that.
Yeah, I started spring cleaning like a month ago when it was still cold, so I get that, I guess. Tonight's episode, 8:30. I was hoping it would be a bigger draw. Mark Ziggler from the San Diego Union-Tribune will be joining us. We're going to talk about San Diego State. He also, I think, was in Denver for UC San Diego and Michigan in the first round. That probably was the game of the tournament in the first round, or the game of the first round. Looking forward to talking to him. I think he's every Lobo fan's favorite, but he's a journalist, so he's my guy. I respect him. 9 o'clock, a familiar face, Mr. Nick Copela from the Las Cruces Sun News. Check in down there with New Mexico State. They had their spring game at the Bulldog Bowl on Saturday, and then a couple of transfers coming in and out of New Mexico State in regards to basketball. So next Friday night is the UNM football spring game at 6:30. It's free to the public. There's a kids clinic at 5. I really don't know what that is. I'm sorry. But at 6:30, they will play UNM will play their spring game, the first under Coach Jason Eck. I'm looking forward to it. What did I think I gave who, what, when, where, and why on all of that there. So it's open to the public, 6:30 at University Stadium. We are going to try to blow out. Kid seats are only $5. Blow it out. Next week in regards to football in the spring game. I know basketball has been a hot topic, but that is our plan next week. I know next Thursday we already have Ben Wysong on. Ben said he'd join us. It's been a while since we've had him on. We love Ben. Ben, I think, loves us. Judging by the retweets and the likes, but I finally got to meet Ben in person, so it was very cool. And then Sean Ryder on Thursday, and then we are efforting offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, maybe Jason Eck, player. I'd really love to talk to Scott Trey Humphrey, but next Tuesday and Thursday, unless something dire happens with UNM men's basketball, I think the due diligence is to UNM football. So that's the plan for next week. Thursday, excuse me, what the hell am I talking about? Tuesday, this past Tuesday, April 8th, Eric Olin and Bo Hightower joined the show. Obviously, Eric Olin, the new head coach of your UNM men's basketball team, joined us. If you're looking for that, go to our YouTube page, the Pit Press YouTube channel. Go to the Pit Press NM, and you can rewatch it there on Twitter or YouTube. Bo Hightower was great too. Love talking to Bo. That's the second time I've done that. Speaking of that, with our website, this is a very informal show tonight, so I apologize for that. I've tried to be more prepared hosting it, a little bit different tonight, so I apologize. We're working on some back end things, and we're excited to make that announcement, a couple announcements soon, hopefully. But speaking of that, driving it to our website, the Pit Press Plus, it's going to be. There is some stuff behind a paywall. It is exclusive content. We're still going to offer hard news, soft news. I couldn't queue up Beavis and Butthead there. Still, our site's for free, but exclusive content. It's yearly or for the month. It's $2 a month. It's a cup of coffee, $25 for the year, which is, again, probably cheaper than a cup of coffee per day. So, want to push that, and then we're trying to do more written content. I have tried to do that. We've also, in my mind, I hope it works, is trying to put out over the summer a feature every Sunday. So, or a column or commentary. George Scott was the last one to add some commentary to us. So, the Pit Press Plus, check it out. You can sign up even for our mailing list. Just provide us your email, and not for marketing purposes, but trying to drive traffic to our site, bottom line. And I think there is a hunger or thirst for more Lobo content. We're not here to rival anybody. Eric came to me with this idea just thinking that there could be more. And probably the only thing I will say is the afternoon on 610 doesn't deliver. That's always my knock. Anyway, I got to be snarky at some point, Ed.
You know what? Let me weigh in on that. I think one of the things about the coverage is, the Lobos had back-to-back good seasons, winning the Mountain West tournament last year, and then NCAA berth, actually winning a game since 2012, for an NCAA tournament game, and a real shot to get to the Sweet 16 against Michigan State. It came up a little bit short. So I think the excitement, we talked about that, is as high as it's been in a long, long time. And Coach Pitino did leave, but I think, having Coach Olin on the other night and having him talk about, and if you haven't seen it, like you said, go to X, YouTube, or Twitter. An unassuming, it seems like very humble, egoless guy. Enjoyed the conversation. People are hungry to know. He just signed somebody today, Antonio Chol, JC transfer is going to be coming in. So people want to know, hey, who's coming in? Because, True Washington's gone to Miami. Donovan Dent to UCLA.
Not to steal your thunder, but just recently, within like the last 15, 20 minutes, somebody who, Ed, you and I had the pleasure of talking to was Quentin Webb, and I got to do the breaking news alarm. He's going to CSUN or Cal State Northridge. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No.
Go ahead.
Not at all. And one thing that we didn't mention is Ibrahim Sacco. Is he still with the roster? And Daraji Agbayosi, the former El Dorado star, are they still on? We didn't even ask him about
Chavez.
that. Dylan Chavez, I think, is gone. I think he was in the portal. I don't know if he's gone anywhere. So this is going to be a new roster. I think the excitement, and we talked about this about, you're a journalist. My son has put out pieces. Eric has. I've written in the past for Mark Smith on Enchantment Sports. I definitely plan on starting to write. And again, look, we know we're not journalists. We get it. But I think some of the pieces that, you have a style of writing. You've done it. You know how to do it. We're learning. We're still learning. But I thought some of the pieces that Eric put out and my son put out, George Scott wrote an editorial. And I think in the future, you're going to be seeing some other names pop up that people will be familiar with. So I think, again, remember, this is not a knock on, you said that, we're not competing with the Journal or anybody like that. The Journal has shrunk its coverage because of space and advertising and things like that. We're not saying we're the Pitt Press Journal or anything like that, but I think the things you're talking about should excite fans. They excite me because I want to be a part of it. I am a part of it. So I think, the more things are coming down the pike, so please stay tuned. And I think they'll be very pleased with the coverage that we're going to offer. We have offered, and I think it's only going to get better.
I appreciate that, Ed. Like I said, this was kind of an informal opening. Quentin Webb, True Washington to Miami. I know probably to some dismay, I had heard from a source that True Washington was looking at a school in Texas. So Miami, I mean, I'm not shocked because of what the transfer portal is, but I'm shocked, not shocked that he went to Miami. I don't know how to say that, but anyway, Quentin Webb in the last hours to Cal State Northridge, Antonio Chol, and I'll go to my main road dog here because I have to do it. Whoop.
Miguel Sanchez.
Antonio Chol looks like a legitimate high major stud, excuse me. John Romero, Boise State B-ball, picked up a transfer center today from Georgetown. Miami showed True Washington the money. At Lobo, Ronnie Chavez, Mountain West basketball around is picking up some great players from portal. Awesome season for 2025-26. Really captivating. Obviously, I think the big news today, Antonio Chol. The kid's name is escaping me. The other day, Howell, I think, was it Chris Howell?
Chris Howell.
Yeah, and then Mikey Howell, I think, is his older brother. He's part of the coaching staff. That was probably a given. I think a lot of people were freaking out, and then Jeff Grammer did post, as I scratch my ear, what Pitino did last year and how he brought in players. And, it's over. I don't know. The portal closes the 22nd. It's going to open back. I don't know. I don't understand it. I would like to express myself in that. While I do talk about it a lot and I guess cover it, I don't expletive understand it at all. Like, it drives me bonkers as much as I appreciate that these kids are getting paid and that they're being allowed to be adults at 18. Because, I mean, what is college for? You go and it's to better yourself now. Is it maybe being abused? That's an argument for another time. And we'll talk to Mark Ziggler about that because of what's happened to San Diego State, which to me would probably be a destination. You know what's crazy I think about Miami is the way Jim Larranaga and that imploded, because he was, after they went, you have to remember that's a program that was in the Final Four 2 years ago. And Jim Larranaga was quoted as saying that 8 Hurricanes came to him after they got to the Final Four 2 years ago and entered the portal. And he, quote, said, "I said, don't you like it here?" And the player said, "No, I love it here. I love Miami." Yet they were still testing the waters after a Final Four run. And they beat Texas with Chris Beard's Texas team, even though Rodney Terry was coaching. I don't know. So that was fascinating to me. I was kind of like and then he just abruptly retired this year, and Miami basketball kind of took a big fat dump.
Well, well, you mentioned that, and Bennett at Virginia retired. He's only Randy Bennett,
55.
55. You got to remember, there's going to be people that are very happy, and they are going to test the waters because they want to see their worth. And it doesn't matter, if they had a great season, they feel very comfortable. They're going to put their name out there. Look at, we're going to get into this later. JT Toppin is going to get $4 million next season at Texas Tech in NIL money. Yeah. And so, Donovan Dent allegedly, supposedly $3 million at UCLA. Did that raise any eyebrows? When I saw, one of my friends was telling me this a couple of weeks ago that lives in Texas. Why don't you guys pay JT Toppin? We don't have that. UNM doesn't have 1.5 million that he got from Tech, and they sure don't have 4 million or 3 million. So that's the easy answer. So you'll see more of that. Coaches of the old school are you imagine Bobby Knight dealing with NIL? Man, Bobby Knight he would have gone crazy with that. It wouldn't have worked. And of course, he's an old school coach, and that's why I think too with Lobo. Remember what Alford said about NIL. So he had to bring a coach in that knows how to deal. It's going to know how to deal with this NIL. Nothing against Coach Alford. He just wasn't a big fan of it. He said that. So I think Fernando Lobo has to bring in Jason Eck as a general manager now. That's the way things are going towards now. Is there going to be, somebody mentioned this to me today, is there going to be a salary cap on this now? And you have to wonder, is there? I mean, these are questions, people are trying to unionize and form unions for players' rights. So this is the landscape of college athletics now, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. I really don't. So it's going to be tough for UNM and some of these smaller schools to it's just a fact of life. That's the way it is. People can get upset and say, "Don't say that." It's the truth. They lost a whole roster full of players. We figured that was going to happen to Borovichinen and Milicevic to Xavier as well. Appelhans to Drake. So, yeah, and so Coach Olin has to start all over, but a good signing today. I want to make sure we mention that. Antonio Chol looks like a very solid signing. So hopefully there's more to come with that.
When I saw JT Toppin was going back, the first thing I thought was, well, what is he getting? And then you saw the 4 million, and somebody posted that an NBA rookie made like 3.2 million this year. So he's making more staying in Lubbock, Texas, which I normally don't act like this, but we had people come on this show last year at this time and say, viewers chime in and say it was a lateral move. They had the lead in an Elite Eight game against the national champion, and he's getting $4 million. Don't come at me with that shit that it's a lateral move. Once he went there, I think UNM fan was sour. And I'm starting to think maybe it isn't such a bad thing because it shows that there is talent coming through here. I will use Luke Weissong as an example. Are you like not telling him to advance his life? He played 3 years, 3-4 years. I'm sure Ben's going to chime in. He played 3 or 4 years at UNM, got hurt. He's going to a bigger school. Would you not want him to succeed with Noah Fafita, who's a phenomenal quarterback, at least just 1 year to see if he can make an NFL roster? I understand the loyalty aspect, but it is to better your life. So I don't know. I just don't understand. I understand people are upset, but to go on and improve your life, which is what college is, just boggles my mind. That's how I feel. It's, you go to college. I understand you go to a college to get to a degree, but if you're playing a sport and you can develop over 2 or 3 years and I guess not finish your education and go and make money, that's what college is there for. I thought that if you get drafted in the NFL or at the NBA, you should have a college degree. But I mean, I know a lot of them, can't do that. And, you don't need a college degree to do it. So, it's catch-22. Hey, fellas, with the new era of the transfer portal, we heard Patino talk about the pit and he used that to recruit. What I'm trying to say is that the pit matter nowadays when it comes to recruiting. I still think it does. I don't know. I still think it does. I don't know why you wouldn't want to come play here. Again, I think Lobo fan would take a stud player for a year. Yeah. And you're right. Yeah.
Let me just comment on that. That reminds me of Blue Chips, and I don't know if you saw, but I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he's introducing Ricky Rowe, and from whatever Dion Badeau, and and Penny Hardaway's character in the lights, hey, that's all good, right? And then afterward, Ricky Rowe says, "Give me a tractor full of cash," or "Give me a tractor and give me some gas," right? So this is what we're looking at. Does the pit matter? Ronnie's question is good. Does it matter? It's a legendary building, sure. Some people don't know, the players that they're recruiting have no idea. They don't. Let's be honest. The pit is, a lot of people do know about it, but what matters most is how much money are you going to pay me? That's the bottom line. Does the pit matter? Yeah, I'm saying it does a little bit. What percentage now? 5% to 8%, I'd say. The other part, the bottom line, how much money? That's it. I'm sorry. That's the way college athletics is rolling now. You're talking about $4 million for Toppin, $3 million possibly, allegedly, supposedly for Dan. That's the bottom line. And look, Dan, he's going to miss the pit fans. Pauley Pavilion, what do they get? 7,000-8,000 for a game? Again, UCLA is a storied program. They haven't won a title in a while or been in a title game, but it's got a much better history than UNM does. That's where he's from. He's going to miss that roar of the pit crowd. He will miss that. But again, the money, that's all that matters, man. The pit is a nice place to play, no doubt about it. But as far as what matters today, it's money, man. It's all about the money.
I'm not going to disagree with you there, Ed. It's all about the Benjamins. Said Puff Daddy once. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Hopefully, we'll be back with the San Diego Union-Tribune's Mark Ziggler. This is the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is Ed Nunez.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Ed Nunez. Very, very happy to have this next guest on. I think many Lobo fans see him on Twitter, but for me, he's a fellow print guy, newspaper guy. His name's Mark Ziggler from my favorite city, America's finest city, which is San Diego, and at the San Diego Union-Tribune. Mark, how you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us here on the Pit Press Live.
Doing great. I'm glad to be here.
All right, I will start off with this question. We'll probably tackle some San Diego State questions because we, at least, we're in Albuquerque. We know that the UNM faithful love San Diego State. Magoon Guas decided to enter the transfer portal. Then he decided to stay at San Diego State. What did you make of that?
I think everybody was a little bit surprised because when you look at the money that when he went into the portal, people thought, Brian Dutcher said himself, he thought, market value is 1.5 to 1.7 million, a bit rich for us. I don't, this is the new era. I wish he would, I understand. And by the time we got to the end, we started hearing reports of guys, Dent is one person, $2-3 million. And I didn't know if those are true or not, but you start, man, if this guy's going to get someone like Magoon with his upside, could command this or that, really gone. And the whole thing came together in about 24 hours. Got the call. I was surprised, but not 100%, because I think Magoon wanted to stay at San Diego. He's a quiet, young guy. He has a couple of really close friends in the team. He loves San Diego, and I think there's a fear of the unknown going into an environment like a Kentucky or Michigan, like that, and having to again. And this is San Diego State that he's certainly taken a discount for him to stay in the program, develop him, and keep developing.
No, I think it's, from a Mountain West Conference standpoint, I think it's phenomenal to have him back. Now, Nick Boyd, I'm a big mid-major guy, so I knew who Nick Boyd was. He was phenomenal for FAU. He's going to Wisconsin. What did you make of his situation in his first year with the Aztecs?
That one shocked a lot of people because they did not want him to leave. For a couple of reasons. One, when he came, he said it was a 2-year commitment. He didn't want to move to chase an NIL. He wanted to be in the. By all accounts, he loved San Diego. He was active. He was really the leader on the team. The fans really him, even though he'd only been there 1 year. He was the leader of the team, and as others started saying they were going to come back, I think people, where else could he go that would be better? But then when you start looking at the financial side, it's hard to really blame a kid like Nick. He's probably not going to be an NBA player. He realizes that. End up in Europe if he wants to keep playing, if he professionally. He end up somewhere like make 100,000 maybe if he's lucky, maybe 125. And here, 1 year of eligibility he has left in college, go out and get $1.5, $2 million, the way the market was exploding. And so it's kind of in that situation when you look at it that way, this is his biggest earning year of his basketball career. And you almost have that chance, that opportunity to take you 8 or 10 years to make that amount of, maybe more. He might not make that in his professional career combined, but he's going to make this 1 year in college. Blame a guy from that standpoint.
Joined by Mark Ziggler of the San Diego Union-Tribune. I'll throw it over to Ed here in a second. I want to ask another question because we are used to seeing San Diego State win in the tournament. And, 2 years ago, I'm still not shocked that they did that because I think, I had the pleasure of covering Steve Fisher about 15, 16 years ago, and I thought he left it in good hands with Brian Dutcher. But the last 2 times that we've seen San Diego State in the tournament, UConn wasn't good, and then UNC. What was your inclination going into the first 4 game against UNC? Were you shocked that it was that bad?
Well, I think you see an NCAA tournament game that lopsided, equal seeds, it's a little shock that they were on fumes the end of the season. They really outkicked their coverage on the youth of the roster early in the season. I thought the season actually was the opposite. I thought they would struggle early. They'd lose a lot of those file games, Houston, Creighton, Gonzaga, or played them back to back to back to back. And then, sort of start to gel, and the freshmen kind of grow up a little bit, and they start going and rolling in February, March, and kind of the opposite happened. I mean, they were really good, and they beat Houston, and I was there. That wasn't a fluke shot or anything. I mean, they were down the second half and came back and took them over, beat them at their own game. They, at that point, you're thinking, wow, this guy's team, and they just started going in reverse a little bit, and they with them, and they had 6 freshmen or sophomores in the 9-man rotation, and you compare that to you just mentioned, they went to the national championship game. I mean, they started a senior, a fifth year seniors, and a 6th-year senior. They were older than something like NBA starting lineups. I mean, they were really, really. They went from that to really, really young, and it just kind of. And then when Magoon got hurt, the way he was playing, and he was their best player. They'd already lost their best player in Reese Waters before, and it was just too much to overcome. So, being down 40, I was a little shocked at that, but losing that game by double figures, I kind of had a feeling that was coming.
I'm going to throw it over to my co-host, Ed Nunez. Ed.
A couple of things you mentioned up and down season. The win against Houston. After seeing Houston, I hadn't seen them until the Final Four. I'd been following them on the rankings, and that was a very physical team. That's an impressive win. And you mentioned, that time you thought things were going to turn out well, but for them it was considered a down season. You mentioned some of the issues about injuries and things like that. What do you think some of the other issues were with this year's Aztec team?
Good question, Ed. I mean, in the youth, one thing I think, and when they didn't have Waters, they didn't have a go-to scorer. It's funny, everyone's looking at next year's team and saying, man, Miles back and Magoon Guaf could be back, and they just added this really good, and they got all these guys coming back, and everyone's forgotten about Reese Waters. He's a really, really good basketball player. He's 6'6". He's got one of the releases of a shot I've ever seen. They played up at Gonzaga last year and beat Gonzaga at Gonzaga, and he was on the floor by a mile. I mean, he had 22 in that game. They couldn't stop. He was shooting from everywhere, and it just showed how good he was. Then he got hurt, and he kind of went sideways a little. The rest of the season wasn't great, but you saw a glimpse in that first half of that season of what he could be, and to lose him, and I think that was the biggest blow. That just, it took a while to catch up with. And I think once, the other thing is, once you get some expectation on them in November, because they didn't have Reese, they were really young, them to go beat Creighton by 18 and beat Houston in that tournament. But once they did, now they're ranked. People them to win. People are expecting them to handle teams like San Jose State easy, and they just couldn't do it. And I think that wore on them and ground on them. And then it was like, are they going to even make the tournament? And that's own pressure in itself. And it just kind of biggest. If you're looking for a technical issue, obviously it was their offense. They as the season offense got worse and regressed, and I think they just missed a guy like who would go get him a bucket when they needed one. And teams took that out and took advantage of it.
Now that the portal's open, I'm not so certain who they've brought in yet. But what did you see that as San Diego State's biggest needs in the portal or for next year, as far as getting their roster together for next season?
Well, it's really interesting because started working a month to go in the season, bring conversations with guys about the following year and wanting to bring them back. And they've done an incredible job. I mean, you look at their roster right now, they have 11 of their scholarships filled right now. I think they're getting close on another guy. about in the next week or so. And then they're going to have one scholarship left, and it's house money. I mean, they don't really need somebody. They have all the sort of the pieces covered. But the two areas I really think they could have upgraded and they haven't is just a natural rebounder. They boards last year, which is uncharacteristic of San Diego State. And yeah, they have Magoon Guath back, and he was a double-double guy late in the season before he got hurt as he emerged. And, and I think they're expecting a lot more from him in terms of rebounding. And they have expecting more from their young guys to step up a little bit. But that would be one thing. It's just go get 10 rebounds a game and not think twice about it. And then the second thing is the shooter. I really do. I mean, Reese Waters is a really, really good shooter. He can shoot well over 43. But he also has shown that he blows hot and cold. Miles Bird blew hot and cold up around a little bit over 30% from three. They just added a point guard shot, ranked third in the nation in average assists per game. And really, really quality guy. They got him from Louisiana Tech. He's really going to help. He's a pass, something they haven't had in a long time. But he's not a great shooter either. They added a guy 6'9", Odin from Charlotte. He played at Wyoming. You probably remember him. Played 3 years at Wyoming. Really versatile guy. I think he's a sixth year of college, veteran, been through the wars. But he shoots 32 or 31% from three. So I just think they need another guy who can just flat out knock it down and more. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with that last scholarship and which direction they go.
Ed, anything else?
I think I did have something else, but I think I was going to save that question for last. And yeah, Ryan, unless I have a couple more questions, but I don't know if you had any.
I was going to switch gears to UCSD because Mark did have the pleasure of covering them. Obviously, D2 to D1, not probably on me had mentioned that off the air, but obviously not a focal point of a major metropolitan newspaper. But you were in Denver. That might have been the game of the first round there in a kind of a lackluster, chalky tournament, but except for the Final Four, I guess, except for the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and the championship game. But I think, Mark, you've had the pleasure of having conversation with Eric Olin to kind of let our viewership know what kind of coach is Eric Olin?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking that. I mean, I think he kind of got typecast because if you look at his career, he came out of an NAIA school in Mobile, Alabama. Wasn't really sure what to do once he graduated, and his coach, Bill Carr, had just come to take the job at UCSD and said, "Hey, it was like having a former player on my staff, kind of knows me and knows my system. Why don't you come along? No coaching experience." And he just kind of figured, San Diego. I'm well, sure. And he just went from that into what he is now, getting the job at New Mexico. And he's part of this, I think, of coaches that are very analytic based, metric based. Played the game, maybe not played at a high level. I like Todd Golden, like David Riley at Washington State is another one. Kyle Smith's a little bit older, but kind of comes from that school. I'm really interested in the metrics and what they tell you about how to play. And he comes from, obviously a Division II background, and he talks about this a lot. There isn't the same pressures on coaches that there are in Division I to win. And that's why you see a lot of homogenous looking teams, right? They kind of all play the same way and run the same stuff because you're afraid to try unorthodox, because if it doesn't work, you're going to end up getting fired and getting fired quickly. And so D2, there isn't kind of those pressures. You get a much longer leash from your athletic director, and you can try. And he's tried stuff, and he's figured out what worked at a school where they didn't have a lot of resources. At first, they didn't even have scholarships. They were non-scholarship Division II. Then they just gave everybody $500 and as a quote unquote stipend scholarship. And they tried a funky. They borrowed this unorthodox matchup zone from another team in their league. A coach came over and helped implement that. They took the flow offense, which you see a lot of high school and smaller colleges play that are undersized, 5-out offense, and they kind of put their own tweaks into it, his own tweaks, change stuff, and they kind of morphed into this system that's really hard to play against and really effective. And I think though is he's been typecast as this guy who coaches, D2, low level D1, no NIL, and so he gets unathletic guys that nobody else wants and plays 5 out and runs this zone, and this is the only thing he can coach. I think he looks upon himself, the reason he wanted, one of the reasons to move, as just a basketball coach, just like Todd Golden was at USF and coached certain kinds of guys at USF, and then he went to Florida and he changed. He has different types of players at Florida that he has access to, but he's still the same coach, still a basketball coach. And so I think that's a little bit what Eric is. And I'm fascinated to see like what kind of players, what kind of roster he puts together. How many of these undervalued D2, maybe not as athletic guys does he take, and how many more quote unquote Division I type bodies and players does he take and mold into his system?
Go ahead, Ed.
It seems we had him on the other night with the our Pit Press live show. Seems unassuming, egoless, humble, humility. You mentioned a system-oriented coach, and I'm just interested. He wanted the Big West, a 30-5 season. I heard everything you said about the free-flowing offense. He said that he wants players to make plays. He's not going to call fist and Duke and a lot of plays from the sideline. How do you think? Now, everything sounds really good. I think we really enjoyed our interview with him. I never thought Richard Pitino had a huge ego. I never thought he did, even though his last name is Pitino. Steve Alford, huge ego. Craig Neal, huge ego. Paul Weir, not so much after Craig Neal. How do you think his? You've been in the pit, man. My son and I sat right next to you on press row when we played. New Mexico played San Diego State. And you know the power of the pit. You've been there. How do you think his personality will match the program? And there's rabid fans here, man. You know that. They're rabid and it's a fishbowl, and they expect things that have never been done, and when they're not done, and look, I'm a Lobo fan since 70. I try to be realistic about things. I'm always going to be a fan. But how do you think his personality fits here in the program, and with that building that's still legendary and iconic? How do you think his personality fits here?
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be an adjustment for both sides, right? I mean, it's going to be an adjustment for him because he went from, 2 years ago, he was coaching with a couple hundred people in the stands and no media coverage and no real care if they won or lost. People wouldn't really know. I mean, their games would start. We didn't get them in the paper a lot of times, and no buzz, no TV stations would ever go out there and do anything on him. To last year, they got me 2,100, and he played a game. They played a game at Utah State where that's a crazy crowd. He played in Viejas Arena, crazy crowd. Played San Diego State very close. It was up late before San Diego State came back and beat them. Won at Utah State, but that's pretty much it. And so I think it's going to be an adjustment for him just walking in there. It's intimidating for everybody. And I think I'll be interested to see, but I think this is something that he's been dreaming of his whole life, and he's not going to be just shaking in his boots when he goes out there. But it's definitely a different style of coaching. And like I talk about these new sort of metric-based guys, they just let the numbers play out. And a lot of the work is done in practice. It's identifying, okay, if the defense does this, we do this. If they have a 5-man who doesn't like to come out of the perimeter, then we're going to do this. If he's in drop coverage in the ball screen, we're going to pop our 5-man who can shoot it. And we're going to do a ball screen with a 2 and a 3 because we think the 3 is their weakest defender, and we want to see how they guard that ball screen and see if we can isolate them a little bit. And that's just it. And everything is predicated on how the defense plays, and you have your reads, and you move the ball a certain way, and you just hopefully get good shots, and you hope that the numbers play out over the course of 40 minutes, and then that's kind of how they are. I mean, he'll just be up there with a water bottle, standing next to the scorer's table, and just kind of watching it all. And every now and then he gets angry if a guy misses a read, or they screw up on the rotation on the zone, or the matchup zone, they screw up a switch. I mean, the switching man-to-man, they screw up a switch. He gets a little angry, and you see him, hear him scream, "Damn it!" But that's pretty much it. He's a player's coach. I mean, guys, he's high-fiving guys. He's, as they come off the floor and before they come on the floor, and he's their biggest fan. But I think he's just going to have to make that adjustment for the expectations, which are going to be enormous. I hope people have patience, because look, it took him a couple of years to build this, and it didn't happen overnight. But when he got it built, it was just rolling, and he didn't have to do anything. He just sort of, the ball went up, for the opening tip, and he just stood there and watched him go to work.
I think to your point, and I want to make a quick point, I'll turn it over to Ryan, is he's looking for a certain he's looking for a certain player. And Lobo fans, understandably so, they just had some success last year and then this year. So they want a quick baton pass and keep running. And in this case here, it may be a little bit of a hitch there, only because he wants players that fit a certain system. We said this the other night when he's on the show. John Wooden, be quick, don't hurry. He's not going to get just anybody. Look what you just said, Mark, about the system. Now, I watched them a couple of highlight reels. They space the floor. They move extra pass. Ball moves with energy. They read and react. Just to what you mentioned. They're taking advantage of any mismatch they see. So he wants a certain player. That's he got one today, and so I think that's something for Lobo fans to consider. Everybody is a little up in arms because everybody left, and we only have 2 players left. But I don't think he's panicking about that. There's a certain player he wants, as you just mentioned. There's a certain way he plays. That's the way it's going to be. That's what he's been successful with, and that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, and I think to your point, one of the adjustments that the fans are going to have to make is, okay, they're used to seeing a guy like Donovan Dent, very highly recruited prep player, right? Or Nelly Jr. Joseph, okay, guy who a lot of schools were looking at when he came into the transfer portal. Drew Washington, another highly touted player, a lot of athleticism. Everyone knew who he was. Excuse me. And Eric's gonna take, like you said, a very particular player. He might not be highly touted, but he might fit his system. Like when people see Jake Hall, the freshman they got that was going to go to UCSD and averaged 29 points a game, was the best player in San Diego. He doesn't look like a basketball player, like the types of players that you've seen in the pit the last few years. He doesn't have that explosiveness, but he has a kind of a funky shot, and he understands pivoting. He understands how to post guys up and shoot a fall away, which could be really dangerous in college. And so the other thing too is, he had a lot of these same players that he had this season. He had them last season. Last season they were good. They weren't great. They lost their leading scorer and their best forward into the transfer portal. But he had all these other guys back, and then the system just clicked. But even though it clicked and they started rolling late in the season, they lost a game early in the season to Seattle at home. Seattle was a very, very middle of the road team, and they got blown out at home. Seattle got really hot from 3. They were hitting their rotations in the zone weren't great, and they just got beat. That kind of loss in the pit will sting. And people got to understand it's just part of the process. Players aren't going to just on November 6th understand all the reads and understand how to play and how to play with each other. That comes over the course of a couple seasons, and particularly even in the season. So I think people just have to understand that his system works, but it takes a little bit. It takes a while. And in terms of the players he's bringing in, look at Todd Golden at Florida. He didn't have one top 100 recruit on his roster. Now, these guys all develop later and they develop differently, but you don't need to get top 100 5-star recruits to have good players. And Eric proved that. I mean, anyone who watched the Michigan game and saw he had a team that had nobody over 6'8" on the entire roster, had no kind of athletes, going up against a team that starts 2 7-footers, tons of 5-star recruits, guys who played all over the place, played in the tournament before, and they came away from a rimmed out 3 from taking them to overtime. It wasn't a fluke. And so the system works, but there has to be a patience component that fans, have to adopt.
I think one more quick point, Ryan, and I'll turn it back to you. I think what you're, saying, Mark, is Lobo fans are used to their star power players. You mentioned Dent, you mentioned Nelly, JT Toppin, House, Mashburn, and we can go on and on. Kendall Williams back in the day. So it may be a little adjustment there. It may be. Now, this is not to say that the team he's going to bring will not do what you said that he's done for many years there, have built a system and win. That's what people want to see here is winning. But you're probably not going to see a lot of Donovan Dance attacking gaps and throwing it up for lobs. You may not see a whole bunch of that, but eventually what you're saying is the system that he's built and believes in will lead to wins. Just got to be patient. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and he's also going to be much more reliant on the 3-point shot. There won't be, there will be pick and roll. They run a ton of pick and roll, but everything is, again, he ran a lot of 5 out. He hasn't always run 5 out. He's had some bigs before. He had a 7-footer a couple of years ago. As it was 4 out, 1 in, but he likes his shooters. I mean, they had a guy named Tyler McGuy. He came from Texas. He got a scholarship to Western Carolina, I believe, at Division I. Went there, didn't do much. Went to a small Division II in Oklahoma. Did really well there, and then UCSD got him for the last 2 years. He does not look like the type of players that are in the pit. He has the narrowest shoulders I've seen of a Division I player, and he admits it. He's got a little mustache. He's got kind of a funky shot. He shoots behind his head. But that guy can shoot. He won the 3-point shooting contest at the Final Four. He can get it off. I mean, you go ask people at Utah State. I mean, they could not stop him. And that's the kind of guy he goes and finds. Now, you look at a guy like that, he goes, okay, he can shoot, and maybe you can give him some shots on offense, but who is he guarding on defense in the Mountain West? Well, that's the whole key. When they're playing this really unorthodox matchup zone that's really hard, San Diego State played the last 2 years, could not attack it, could not figure it out. They have all the athletes in the world. They could not figure it out. Utah State, which plays a matchup zone, and so you think they know a little bit how to attack it, they couldn't attack it. And then they mix that with a switching man-to-man. So you really don't know what is it, a switching man-to-man? Is it a matchup zone? Who's going where? And it just, I mean, Michigan had so many problems with it. And so they can overcome the lack of athleticism with these things. And so that's my interesting part, is to see if he brings in the athletes that you're talking about, or he sticks with the kind of model player that he has, very, very skilled offensively, can shoot it, knows how to drive both ways, knows how to look for the open man, knows how to move the ball, unselfish, that type of player, as opposed to just a guy like Donovan Dent or Jalen House, who just jets down the floor.
Joined by Mark Ziggler of the San Diego Union-Tribune. Last question for you, Mark. Being that you cover that you cover college basketball and D1, and then you're in the Mountain West Conference, just kind of throwing it over, hitting home here in Albuquerque. JT Toppin gets $4 million from Texas Tech. What did you make of that?
I mean, that's just where the market's gone. And I don't know. I just don't see where the money is coming from, how this is financially viable. And college athletics have never been fiscally responsible. We can all agree on that. I mean, back in the arms race days of everyone's building better practice facilities or locker rooms or indoor practice facilities, or now we're in a flight charter, now we're in the same 5-star hotels. None of it has been, operating under a strict budget. It's just like, let's just keep spending whatever we got to do. And now it's how much can you spend on a player in NIL? It doesn't make sense. If you look at the budgets of even the top basketball programs, what they bring in TV revenue, which is really going to be like 15 or 20% of their total number. The rest of it's football. So that's going to be like maybe $8 or $10 million. What they bring in gate, maybe another $8 or $10 million. In parking and concessions, maybe you get your budget up to $25 million. But then you've got to pay all these people. You got to pay your coaches. You got to pay all your staff. You got to pay for the scholarships, for the medical, all that stuff. And now you're paying players $4 million on top of it. It just doesn't pencil out. And sooner or later, I think college athletics are going to be operated as for-profit businesses, loosely affiliated with universities, and then we'll see what the real money is. But this isn't real money right now. This is just, well, we got to get them, and someone else is going to offer them 3, so we got to offer them 4, and we're just going to find that money from boosters or the university or student fees or whatever it's going to be. we just got to find that money and we're just going to spend it. But it's silly money. It doesn't make sense. And I hope for the sake of the sport, it comes back. The last thing I'll say about that, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is I think college athletics are really in danger because right now what kind of keeps the college athletics is you only get 4 years. You have 5 years to play 4, right? What happens if you start paying these people and a guy making $43,000 in the G League is looking out there going, well, I'm better than all these guys in college. Why can't I play in college for another 3 or 4 years? It's a restraint of trade if you don't pay. I mean, these players are getting paid. What's the difference between me just using that as my job? You don't tell a professor he can only be there for 4 years. Why can a basketball player who's an employee only be there for 4 years? And as soon as that gets challenged in court and the 4-year rule goes out the window, then this is just professional sports.
Oh, man.
And I mean, it's scary to think about, but I mean, when's the last time the NCAA won a lawsuit? You know?
Yeah, it's true.
You know, they're like Air Force in the Mountain West. I hate to bash on Air Force, but their record speaks for itself in basketball.
No, it doesn't. Joe Scott's my guy. He's a South New Jersey guy. I love him. So,
I love Joe Scott too.
Yeah, he's a great guy to talk to. Mark, I was expecting 15, 20 minutes. I had you for about 30, 35. It was a pleasure having you on the show. I will let you go and get back to a beautiful San Diego night, I guess, because it's my favorite city, because I'm used to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Newark, New Jersey. So San Diego, my dad used to go to La Jolla a lot, so I'm partial to San Diego. Not only that, I saw Tony Gwynn hit a walk-off home run at Qualcomm back in the 90s. So yeah, no,
that's awesome.
Yeah, for a guy who didn't homer, 2-2 count right over the right field wall. So this New York Metropolitan fan, his favorite baseball player is Tony Gwynn. He is Mark Ziggler from the San Diego Union-Tribune. Mark, I will bug you down the stretch, but I have to say I cannot thank you enough for making time for us tonight and talking some San Diego and San Diego State basketball and some college basketball.
Hey, my pleasure. Hey, let's do this again. That was a lot of fun. And please take care of my guy, Eric. He's a great human being and a great basketball coach.
Well, I think our viewers are happy.
You're lucky to have him.
Well, I think our viewers are happy to have that. Mark Ziggler, San Diego Union-Tribune. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right. Talk to you guys.
Mark Ziggler of the San Diego Union-Tribune. I thought that was a fantastic conversation. Ed, what'd you think?
You know what? He said a lot about Coach Olin that what to expect. You know, he's going to be a very good coach. He's going to build a system, but what they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and this won't be built in a day either. He's going to be bring players that in those read and react systems, they take a while. You have to have players that trust each other. So yeah, I thought what he said about Coach Olin was very, very forthcoming and very informative. But I thought the comments at the end kind of rocked me like, what the heck about college athletics, about the what ifs, the lawsuits. The NCAA hasn't won a lawsuit in who knows how long. So what's coming down the pike as far as college athletics? But I think Eric Markham said, just enjoy 1 year at a time. He's probably right. Enjoy one season at a time, because we don't know what's going to happen. When I opened the paper today, and I told my wife right away, I said, honey, he's getting, JT Toppin's getting $4 million. Somebody mentioned what would I have done with $4 million back in the day at 20 years old? Wow. Good for him. He can take care of his family. Ramon Session, his agent, how much is he getting? Because remember, he's the one that convinced JT Toppin to leave here. And it turned out good for him financially. We can get mad at him all we want. We used to have a couple of fans that would get mad, at players that left. That's the nature of the game now. And so, I think what he said at the end really kind of made me really wonder about how long that's going to be. But I thought the interview, especially about San Diego State and Magoon Quath, and they need rebounders, they need a shooter, and he's right. They didn't have that splash shooter, and really New Mexico didn't either, a consistent one. They had guys here in spots here and there, but I thought that and the description of Coach Olin and what we can kind of expect here was very informative.
Ed, before I let you go back to Mrs. Nunez, Ice Baby, stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Ed, what would you do with $4 million at 20 years old back in the day if you were a player?
Yeah, my wife and I had that talk too. Said 20 years old. I don't know, man. I wasn't mature enough to handle that kind of money. I'd probably want to go spend a lot and things on dumb things, I'm sure. But $4 million, man, that could last a while. And hopefully I would invest and take care of it. But I'd probably make some frivolous purchases right away. I'm sure at 20 years old, what are you going to, when you get that kind of money? Yeah. Male's frontal lobe of his brain isn't developed till 26. And I used to tell my son, tease him even afterward. I said, your frontal lobe of your brain still ain't developed, but I'm kidding, because my son's an outstanding young man. But, you're at that age there when you're 20 and a male with $4 million in your pocket. I don't know.
Yeah, I might be dead in Las Vegas. Nick, what was I going to say? Ed, thanks for joining us. I know you got to hop off. We'll take a quick commercial break. Appreciate Mark Ziggler from the San Diego Union-Tribune. I've been trying to lock that down for a while, and threw something else at the wall, and I was able to get a hold of him, and I think he will join us in the future. So much appreciated to him. Ed, thank you for joining tonight. And yes, sir. Thanks, Ed. Going to take a quick commercial break. Nick Copela from the Las Cruces Sun News will be joining us. Want to check in on NMSU basketball. Football was at the Bulldog Bowl. I'm the objective reporter, but for you Lobo fans, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So love talking to Nick. We'll be right back after this.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Our planet is our shared home, where we can all celebrate in its beauty, and we can all do more about making our home a better place together at the Earth Day Festival. Join us on April 13th at Balloon Fiesta Park. Family fun activities and energy experts on what you can do to take action now. Get your reserved tickets at earthdayfestivalnm.org. Our power, our planet. It's all at the Earth Day Festival.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
I'm not on mute, thank God. Welcome back to the show. I am your fantastic host, Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. I want to thank Mark Ziggler from the San Diego Union-Tribune. Ed Nunez. Appreciate people not hating us at the beginning. Very informal. We've been working on a lot of things behind the scenes. So I'm relying on my guests heavily tonight. And I now turn to a regular on the show, Mr. Nick Copela from the Las Cruces Sun News. I didn't say San Diego Union-Tribune. Thank God. Nick, are you an actual Rangers fan?
I'm from Texas. So yeah, I like the Rangers. Celebrated pretty hard when we won the World Series 2 years ago.
Good to hear. That's why I was asking that. I'm a Geraldus Garcia guy, and I love Bruce Bochy. And then you took Jacob deGrom from the Nemets. But anyway, Eric Markham, I got to do this. Ed the Pro, you're always on point. I love your commentary and coverage. You are truly a pro. Ryan, you're pretty dope too. Wow, I've never been called dope. I guess it's the 90s, or maybe I'm making that up. Anyway, Nick, what's going on in the land of New Mexico State athletics? I like the fact that NMSU did play their spring game at the Bulldog Bowl. How was that experience?
Yeah, the first thing it was cool that they went down there. They got very, very unlucky with the weather. They caught like the 1 or 2 days a year in Artesia where it's just rainy and cold and snowy and wet and everything. So it didn't really make that for that great, I guess, of a viewing experience. There weren't that many fans there. I imagine if the weather was better, they would have gotten a better crowd. But yeah, it was cool. They really talked about, just every time I asked them about it, they just always talked about kind of expanding their reach and kind of making sure they get to all of southern New Mexico instead of just Las Cruces. So I get the idea behind it, and it was certainly something that was interesting. But obviously they just got very unfortunate. So it's I guess it didn't really maybe it didn't do what they hoped for, but it was still pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, I've been more positive lately. It's very weird. I thought it was a good idea. Look, and not that I ever have a dog in the fight. And as a UNM alum, I just saw that and I was like, that's a very, very good idea. You had recently written a piece, about a week ago, but they have 36 new players and a new offensive coordinator. Tony Sanchez spoke to you about that. How are they adapting to that?
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, just like last year, there are a lot of moving parts. But yeah, they seem to, especially the offensive players, seem to have been taking a liking to David Yost's new system. They think it's more dynamic than what they had. They think it allows them to play more fast than what they had before. They think it'll lead to a more balanced offense than what they had last year, which is especially a big thing because they were a heavy run team last year because they couldn't throw the ball to the side of the barn last year, so they just had to run the ball. And so hopefully they believe that Yost is gonna bring that and make them more dynamic. And they have a new quarterback as well in Logan Fife from Montana, a transfer from there. So he looks like he's gonna be the guy, be the starter, and who knows what he could be, but he should definitely be better than what they had last year. And there's all types of moving parts. I mean, it's mostly around the offense because most of their new players, they got a lot of new receivers. Their starting tight end is probably going to be a new guy. They're going to have, I think, 3 new starters on the offensive line this year through a combination of guys graduating and trying to go pro and guys who just transferred away. So yeah, just a lot of different pieces, new quarterbacks, new depth running backs, bunch of new receivers, new tight end, bunch of new offensive linemen. But you could also look at that as a positive and say, well, the offense wasn't really that great last year. So maybe getting all these new pieces in, maybe it could help them. It could help their offense improve because that is something that they definitely needed to work on. But it is a lot, trying to implement all that in once. But it's different for this spring football because last year, they were going through obviously huge changes. Jerry Kill left, Tony Sanchez was coming in. They were having to recruit guys all the way through June, and they'll still maybe have to bring in a few new players, but not maybe at the scale that they had last year, just because they have a lot of the guys that are going to be impact players in spring. So a lot of that's just already taken care of, and so yeah, they can develop players more. They can focus on more football things more in the spring, and yeah, they especially feel pretty good about what they have on offense now compared to what they had last year.
What was the mindset? I'm sure this was Tony Sanchez's decision, but what was the mindset on the fact to get out of Las Cruces and go to Artesia?
So their stadium right now, it's undergoing renovations, mostly to the locker room and kind of team rooms and things like that. So not actually to the seating itself, but there's a lot of construction going on in that stadium right now, and so they have limited access and just what they could use and what they could do and things like that. So that was part of the decision, but also I guess Tony Sanchez, when I talked to him about it, and this was the answer that he gave me, he feels like maybe Artesia and just other maybe smaller towns in and around Las Cruces and in southern New Mexico kind of identify and line up with, I guess, the brand or the identity that he wants for his football team, and that's maybe just to be kind of gritty and tough and all that. So he says, and he believes going to smaller towns like that helps out with that and helps people outside of Las Cruces. Maybe they can endear themselves to and maybe show off the identity that Tony Sanchez wants to those towns and those people who hopefully identify with that. So just a combination of those two things. They do think the construction on that stadium is ahead of schedule. They do believe it'll get done in July before their first game in August. So it was kind of just a little bit of two things. They want to kind of just go out of Las Cruces a little bit, and also they can't really use their stadium that much right now.
Gotcha. I think you had mentioned that. I didn't know they were doing construction on it. What is the deal with that?
Right. So it's renovations that have been going on since last year. Actually, it was approved before I even got to Las Cruces, and they were doing construction kind of during the season, but they're really ramping it up now that there's not a season. There's a lot of scaffolding there, a lot of stuff taking place, and they're just getting new locker rooms, new team rooms, and just the construction is basically based off that. It's maybe just less to do with in the stadium proper, more just to do with just what the players can get access to and improve that and things like that. And so most of it's already done. They kind of already had to have maybe the front that's kind of close to the streets, so they don't have to block off the roads anymore there. But they still have a lot of construction going on near the tunnel areas and things like that. So yeah, that's going there. Tony Sanchez has been told that they hopefully will get done in July, so they won't be going to the season. Maybe won't have to go into summer camp with all that happening. So yeah, that's basically where it's at right now.
And I'm going to turn the tides here because I have seen that, and I don't know what that the Pac-12 is discussing adding New Mexico State. Have you heard the grumblings? There's a rumor. I mean, I'm not here to on this topic, and I will reserve my first curse word. I will use my first curse word on the show, my one and only. I can't see them getting, well, no, I guess I won't say it, but I cannot see them being, and I'm not here to shit on them, I cannot see them being in the Pac-12 when they could barely vie for for Conference USA, and they were independent in football. I'm not dissing on them. I don't understand that at all. I don't know what you've heard. Do you know anything? Sounds more like a rumor to me.
It is. And for me, and just for the sake of my credibility, I never really like to talk about stuff, publicly unless I absolutely know something that's concrete. So what I'm going to say about that is don't believe everything you read. And so, yeah, I've heard nothing like that. I've heard nothing going to that, or at least no one from people I can trust, or nothing that is verifiable, excuse me. So right now where it's at, I mean, if it's anywhere at right now, if you can even qualify an internet rumor being somewhere where it can be at, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Gotcha. No, and I respect you, Nick, and I appreciate that. I was, more curious if you had heard anything. And I'm gonna go to I try not to when we have guests on, even though you're more of a regular on our show, and I know Keno. So, what are the chances NMSU is there any chance with them getting into the Mountain West? Have you heard any grumblings of that?
They will probably be long-term Conference USA members right now.
Gotcha. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Appreciate it. Switching gears to New Mexico State men's basketball. A couple recruits came in. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. What you tell me? Say again. You were talking about basketball. Or you were talking about football still.
I meant men's basketball. I'm sorry.
Oh
I
yeah,
probably went out there.
men's basketball. Right. Well, right now, they don't have any, or at least haven't seen any transfer recruits that have come in from other programs, or maybe I just missed it. They do have some guys going out right now, especially one of their key stars last year, in Zay Jackson. He decided to hop in the transfer portal. And so he's the main one that is gone right now, and most of the other guys are just maybe bench players or guys that didn't play. So he's probably really the only notable one right now. Jane Harris is also in there. He was Jason Hooten's first signing, but he wasn't a starter either. But they do have some recruits that they've been having for a while. Probably the most notable one right now is a guy named Omar Smith. I think he's from Baltimore, or in and around Baltimore, somewhere up there. He's someone that they're very excited about. He's good. I think he's a 3-star, and so he's probably the main one that's going to come in. Who knows if he's going to start right away? I guess it probably just depends on who they get in the portal. But yeah, he's the main one that they got right now, and there's a lot of intrigue around him. So he should certainly be something interesting when it comes. And just for portal guys, all the portal guys that came last year. This time last year, they didn't have anyone else either, but they ended up with about maybe like 6 or 7 guys, some of whom were inserted into the starting lineup right away, including Peter Filipovich, who ended up as one of the best newcomers in conference USA and ended up with an all-conference honor. And so I think I posted a tweet like that today, just going through all the dates of last year when those guys committed, just say that like, well, maybe nothing's happening now, but like maybe like a few weeks from now, it'll be a different story and they will have like some sort of a transfer class, but they don't have anything right now.
I'm switching it back to football because I just happened to see this, and you covered a spring game just recently. UNM's is next Friday. The Athletic had a story about how maybe college football needs a preseason game. I know I'm throwing a curveball at you, but when you hear that, what are your thoughts on that?
Like maybe just like what the NFL does with preseason?
Yeah, maybe like I guess a game or two, or what college basketball does, where they kind of do the hidden thing, or what UNM and UTEP did this year. I don't know. I just kind of saw that on a headline on The Athletic and thought I'd pick your brain on that if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, that I think that'd be interesting, and there's also been kind of stuff about maybe doing a spring game against another school. I know Colorado and Syracuse tried to do that very late, so before they got denied by the NCAA. But that would be intriguing, and I think you could probably do something to where maybe you take maybe the FCS game that you play, or maybe like a power school, they play a group of 5 school like in New Mexico or New Mexico State, and instead of doing that week 1 or 2 in the season, you instead do that in the preseason, and that can be kind of your game. You would still kind of give them maybe a payout or something like that. I don't know if that money would go down because now it would just be a preseason game instead of just a normal regular season game. But yeah, that'd be interesting. I think I'd enjoy to see that, especially for there's a lot of turnover with rosters with transfer portal and things like that. So having that preseason game to kind of get things in order and make sure you can get them in a game like scenario, especially if you have a lot of new players, I'd be interested to see that. I wouldn't be against that.
You mentioned the transfer portal, and I don't mean to ping pong back and forth from basketball, but it does play a factor into football. You do this for a living. Does the transfer portal? I think it is good for the players, but does it drive you bonkers being that you have to cover it full time?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's just even recently, I found out during the spring game that one guy that they got with the transfer portal that they made this huge announcement for, and they had signed a guy named Dominic Richardson who came from Baylor. He's now no longer with the team, and it wasn't anything that he did. They say he's having like some family issues, something like that, and he had to leave the team. Which I hope he's doing okay. But still, that came, very late on. They basically went through the entire spring ball until they kind of found that out, and before I found that out. And so, like you say, the number was 36 new players before. That was a number that I thought until just last Saturday. Now it's 35, obviously, because Dominic Richardson is no longer there. So it is a very recurring thing, and it's still coming up because we got a spring window, which everyone just really loves. Everyone just loves the fact that there's 2 windows for the transfer portal, especially coaches. You gotta love that if you're a coach. But anyway, yeah, it is kind of crazy, just seeing all the new players like you go through signing day, you go through the transfer portal, and you make like a big list of like everyone, and you post it just to make sure everybody knows about it. And you're feeling really good. Then like 3 or 4 days later, they get like a JUCO or a new transfer, or someone drops out, or something like that, and like your post is immediately outdated, or you got to update it, or something like that. So it is kind of crazy, especially for smaller schools when it can be kind of hard to track or hard to find, because obviously maybe schools like New Mexico State maybe aren't getting reported nationally enough. So it's really just up to me to find all that stuff. So yeah, it can be crazy, especially given that guys that get added, April, May, June can contribute. Seth McGowan was a guy that they didn't add until very, very late on in the offseason, and he became one of their best players. So you can still find guys like that, especially if you're a small school and you're still looking around for stuff like that. But if it was me, I would probably just have the 1 window in December, and I get why that's there, because you got to have guys enroll before the next semester in January. So I fully understand why that's there. Just to make it a little bit easier, I think it'd be easier for players. I think it'd be easier, especially for coaches. I think it just make it easier for everyone, just because having 2 windows, it just means there's so much fluidity in your roster, and there's so much, things that can go back and forth and things that can go wrong and things like that. And I think it'd just be a lot easier for everyone if there was just that 1 window.
No, I agree with that there. I think the same thing. I was in Cleveland, and they were like, yeah, the transfer portal opens on Monday. And I'm like, I don't keep
during the tournament. Yeah.
During the tournament. And I know I host this show and I cover UNM. And this is almost like, a full-time job. Sometimes I have a full-time job that pays my bills, and I'm like, I can't keep track. And and I'm not trying to diss on any players, but you have like agents now, like, this is the best player. Like, I don't know who you are. And it's my concern, when you're on the Lobos, and I do pay attention to the Aggies, or you're on a Mountain West Conference team. But there's just 1,600 players in the basketball portal, and then football teams are huge. I just can't keep track of it. It's bonkers. And I think getting paid to do it full time, I'd be like, the hell with this.
And especially it's weirder in basketball, because like I said, for the football, like, you get why the December window is there, because you got to get guys enrolled into the school and into classes before the next semester begins. But like, that's not really a thing for March and April. The next semester doesn't start until August. Like, that makes it even more. And like, during the tournament too, when you still have a season kind of ongoing, and I know that's kind of a thing during football, when the window's during the playoff, and it's during bowl season and stuff like that. But it just feels even weirder in basketball, to where like things can change. Like, you can move this to the summer, or you can at least move it to May or something like that. So I just don't see why it's from March to April. And maybe I'm just there is a reason. I just don't know it. And I don't know, and especially because players, I get why you would want to have players transfer maybe the first time and give them a free transfer the first time, because maybe you don't want to restrict moving too much. But there's I think a rule needs to be brought back to where it's your second transfer or your third transfer, fourth transfer, or whatever, then you have to sit out. So then you have to sit out a year like it was before. I think that would fix a lot of stuff, because there was a quarterback for Western Kentucky last year, TJ Finley. He's going to go to Tulane this year. That's his 5th school in 5 years. He's been to LSU. I think he's been to Auburn. Can't remember the third one, but he was at Western Kentucky last year. Now he's going to Tulane. That's crazy, right? I'm probably not the only one that finds it crazy. And so I just think it just got implemented without any kind of regulation, or just because they lost a court case and the NCAA thought they had to move pretty fast. But then you also don't know if they do establish a rule, something like we had with the Diego Pavia thing. Someone can just sue the NCAA, and because the NCAA evidently has the worst legal team of all time, they will lose, and that rule just gets struck down. So you really never know. You really never know what's going on now.
Nick, I for as long as we've been doing this 2 years, and then I've been on the radio, I don't know why that might be the best comment ever. The fact that you said the NCAA has the worst legal team ever. I'm like, I went to law school and I represent him. Like, we can't win an expletive case. Like, holy moly. Nick Copela, Las Cruces Sun News. Nick, before I let you go, you cover college football nationally, or you cover college football in Cruces with New Mexico State. You cover the basketball team. You cover that athletic department. Almost switching gears, what did you make of the Houston-Florida game the other night and the tournament in whole?
I thought it was really good, and I thought the Final Four was a pretty good quality overall. The first round I thought was maybe a little bit of underwhelming. We didn't get the upsets that we're used to. I mean, we got some 12-5 upsets, but even those were kind of underwhelming. Like Nick Nice toyed with Clemson like the entire game. Like, that wasn't even exciting at all. But the tournament got better as it went along, as it usually does. The tournament's always great. It's one of the best things in American sports. But yeah, I thought the Houston Florida game, I thought it was great. I was kind of hoping Houston would win. I have a family member that went to Houston, so I was kind of hoping that they would win. Just for them, and they almost won. It was, I mean, I don't know how you don't get a shot off on the final possession like that. Or just, I don't know I don't know how that happens. I feel so bad for Kelvin Sampson, because I would imagine he drew something up and, the guys out there just didn't execute it. But I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a great Final Four. Tournament always delivers. My school made it. Oklahoma made it finally. First time under Porter Moser. So that was pretty fun too. Yeah, the Houston, Florida, great game. Tournament got better as it went on. It's always great. March Madness is always fun.
It has replaced my, the Holy Grail, which was Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know. I think the first weekend is the best. And if you've never covered it, Nick, I hope, I got the pleasure of doing it. It was like one of the top things I've wanted to do. And I've covered some cool things, and it was up there, and I was ecstatic to be there. I was at the arena the whole time, and it was cold in Cleveland, so thank God I was in the arena the whole time. But one of my favorite movies is Major League. So even though they're no longer the Cleveland Indians, they're the Cleveland Guardians, it was still cool to me. It was personal to me. So Nick Copela, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was saying, like, I've covered the women's tournament before when I was at OU, because they made it, and in the women's tournament you get the host games. So there, but I've never covered the men's tournament. So that's kind of a goal of mine. Maybe while I'm here in New Mexico State, can get an auto bid, and maybe I can go to a tournament games, and that'd be pretty fun. So, but that's definitely on a bucket list eventually. Either just covering it or just going as a fan one day. That'd be pretty fun. So just one day.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been to 2 Elite Eight games. One in the pit. Yeah, one in the pit and one in the Garden. I saw South Carolina beat Florida in 2017, and then I was at the Elite, which a lot of people probably watching know about, there's the Patino connection. 2005 West Virginia, Kevin Pittsnoggle. Then they had another guy. They came out in the first half and were like 15 of 16. I always forget the stat, from 3. They were killing Louisville. Louisville rallied and beat him in overtime with Rick Pitino as the head coach. So that's cool. And then now I've been to a first and second round game, but I've covered the women's tournament. So that's something I can cross off the bucket list as well. But I don't know. It's just such a spectacle when you're there, because it's March Madness slapped on everything everywhere, and you're at something special. So yeah, so it's a cool experience. But Nick, as always, I always appreciate you joining us on the Pit Press Live and giving us an insight down in what's going on in Las Cruces with New Mexico State athletics. Bug you maybe in a month or so, or if something else happens, but always appreciate your time, man. Good work down there.
Yeah, of course. They'll have to figure out that 80 position at some point, so maybe you can bug me about that soon.
I guess now that I still have you on, is there any news? Because I forgot about that.
Right. Well, I mean, we're still a little bit far away from, I guess, they haven't specifically said July, but they said back in their president said back in January that they would decide in 6 months, so which would be July from January. So we're coming up on that. Every time I've talked to Fermi, which honestly hasn't been much because it's obviously hard to get to the president of the university, but he always speaks pretty glowingly about Amber Burge, and he always, seems to really like what she's doing, seems to like what she's got going on, and seems to like the ideas she's implementing, what she's involved with, and things like that. So my gut feeling tells me that she's going to be named the permanent athletic director by the time July comes. But if I had to put a guess on it, if I had to put kind of an estimation on it, I think that's where we're heading. But they could get to that point where they reassess, which is what they said that they're going to do, and maybe decide to go elsewhere. And then who knows what they would hire or who they would hire. But if I had to, if you ask me today, I would say that Amber would probably just become the permanent AD of that school.
She's the intern.
Yes, they have her known as the acting athletic director
okay.
right now. So kind of the AD, but also kind of not. So if they name her the permanent AD in July, it would be like they kind of have a new AD, but also kind of not, because she's basically, she's been given the full responsibilities of that. Like, she's opted New Mexico State into the House settlements, which is something that you would usually do if you're a permanent athletic director, not just an acting athletic director. So, she's been given a lot of responsibilities for someone who's technically only in a temporary position right now. So yeah, I just that's where I think they're headed. That's where I think New Mexico State's headed right now.
Good to know. Well, yeah, if that happens, we'll bring you on, or if something else happens, I'll check in over the summer. But Nick, thank you very much always for your time.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me on. I love it.
Perfect. All right, Nick Copela, Las Cruces Sun News. I'll let him get back to his. I don't even know what day it is. Thursday night. All right. Well, it's that time. Let me go to the comments, which aren't as bad tonight. Again, Pit Press Plus, exclusive content. Go check it out. The pitpressnm.com. We're also accepting editorials. So if it's somewhat well written, I'll post it. Kind of like not a fan forum, but if I can use it and I can edit it, hey, I'll throw it on our website and we will promote it. And subscribe and like and do all the fancy things. And if you missed the Eric Olin interview the other night and Bo Hightower, go to our YouTube channel. Check it out, the Pit Press. Let me read some of the comments. In this high turnover, God, I can't talk. In this high turnover environment, we need to away requirement play 4 power schools each year away and look to secure high profile wins on teams still gelling, AK SDSU. Miguel, I apologize.
Miguel Sanchez.
I didn't understand that. Michael Cedillo, I'll go to you. If the Aggies were to join, they stated that they would not be a full paying member. Is that Pac-12 or Mountain West? They would not get a full membership contribution. I guess the Pac-12. This is my opinion. This isn't based on fact. You were an independent football begging to get into a conference, and the Pac-12 is calling you now. When I've said this, when I think of the Pac-12, I think of UCLA in the tournament. I think of USC football, Oregon football, Washington football, at least my generation. What the Pac-12 is now is not what they're preying on the name, and it's just not what it was. I don't understand it. It's the weirdest thing. And I think I've read that some of those schools that joined the Big Ten are regretting it. Do it for football. Everything else, keep the Pac-12. I mean, again, like I jokingly said, when I think of Big Ten volleyball, I think of UCLA and Rutgers. Like, give me a break. Christopher Gay, it's true. It's like Legally Blonde representing the NCAA. That was pretty good. John Romero, Aggies were in the Missouri Valley Conference back in the day when they generated 15 NBA players per year. That's a lot of NBA players there, John. The Pac is not beneath them. Yeah. I think they would be a perfect fit for the Mountain West. I'm being honest. You don't have to fly to Florida. You don't have to fly to Virginia. You play UTEP twice a year in basketball. You get your rival UNM twice a year. I don't understand why that's such a bad thing. I don't get it. You can avenge a loss. Like, look, UNM didn't have an opportunity to avenge that loss this year, and it probably set a fire under their ass. And NMSU has bragging rights, even though the season was up and down for them. I still refer to it as an extinction level event for UNM. They are happy they turned that season around. I don't buy. Look, I'm not here to talk ill of New Mexico State. I just don't buy it. I do not understand it at all. If UTEP can barely get into the Mountain West and that is in a bigger market. Now, obviously, they haven't had success. They got to the New Mexico Bowl as a 6-6 team a couple of years ago. Again, you won a bowl game once in like 20 years. And again, I'm fully aware of what UNM has done. And you have had more success getting to the NCAA tournament, but you've won what, once? I don't understand it. And I'm not talking trash. I think UNM has the potential to be, with Albuquerque being a bigger market, and you can save all your jokes and it's a rivalry. And I understand that. I truly feel, and I'm not, if you guys that listen to the show, I always have to defend myself. If you listen to the show, you know how I feel, but I think Albuquerque and UNM have the potential to be a sleeping giant. And it is good for UNM, and it is good for the rivalry when NMSU also wins. And that's the flip side for NMSU. It is good for it's good when UNM wins. Look at this year. You beat them in the pit, and they were one of 32 teams standing at the end of the season. I don't know. It's maybe it's a little bit of parity, but I think when both are winning, it's very good. But I hate to tell NMSU fan, and I will quote Ghostbusters. If I'm wrong, I will go to NMSU prison, UNM Aggie fan prison happily and quietly, and I will enjoy it. I just don't buy. If UNM cannot get into the Pac-12, no way in hell NMSU is getting in. They are surviving. I think they basically begged to get football into that conference. Like I don't get it. Maybe join the Mountain West and you can combine and you live happily and peacefully. I don't understand. There is something weird here where at least I understand that UNM thinks they're better than NMSU and NMSU thinks they're better than UNM. Why don't you want to kick the crap out of each other twice a year, 3 times a year in football? Once in football, obviously you're going to play that game, but twice in basketball and in other sports. It makes the rivalry better. I don't understand that. I kind of get irritated with UNM fan, and I don't know if Patino was part of that they thought they were better than them. And as we talk about the transfer portal and NIL, what tradition we have left is the rivalry games. And, Bedlam went away. It pisses me off. That's like the one thing I want. I'm all for players getting paid and getting a chunk of the revenue. And I was going to go read this comment, but I don't understand that. And I'm sure there's going to be an NMSU fan listening and like, what are you like? I think they need to be in the same conference and play each other. But this Pac-12 thing boggles my mind. There is no way in hell. Worldwide liberty. NIL is clearly unconstitutional. Okay, I'm going to preface this. This is probably a comment for somebody much smarter than I, and that is Ed is a lawyer. NIL is unconstitutional. It violates the freedom of association, the freedom of assembly, and the right to contract. It is challenged. If challenged by the right attorneys, it will go away. So worldwide liberty, I pose the question to you. If these kids can't make money like the Fab Five, and there's probably somebody smarter that can answer the question. The way I feel is you go to college to better yourself. These kids make billions of dollars for the NCAA and their universities. Why can they not get paid? Now, is it the Wild West and a shit show? Yes, it is. Ronnie Chavez, Belen, Los Lunas, Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, Bernalillo, and even Santa Fe. Moriarty and Edgewood, and all those equal well over 1 million people, all within 50 miles of Albuquerque. Let's make it happen. I've said that. This is a metropolitan area. It is not Phoenix. It's not Denver. You are not LA. You are not Chicago, and you are not the New York metropolitan area, but it is much bigger, and I think it can happen. And I might end the show on this, is the fact that absolutely makes no sense that absolutely makes no sense that NMSU isn't doing whatever they can to get in the Mountain West. They're going to fall way behind if they don't make some sort of investment soon. I'm going to preface this, and it's probably going to upset some NMSU fans. Again, I'm not a UNM fanboy. I appreciate what Teddy Allen did 2-3 years ago, because I had said it for 2 years. Who was the last team that beat UConn in the tournament? Chris Jans and NMSU and Teddy Allen. And I can't think of the other guy who had that massive dunk against Arkansas. Good. Oh, the name's going to bother me. NMSU want, like, I get you're a fan and you want to get to a bowl game every year and you want to win. It does wonders for your program. Jerry Kill did wonders for I don't know what you mean by that, Worldwide Liberty. Again, somebody smarter than I worked in college. Urban Meyer was at UNLV football practice today. Now I lost my train of thought. Oh, the NMSU thing. NMSU, and for a program that struggled, and I understand it, to get to a bowl game, and what Diego Pavia did, he's a gamer. Is he the most talented quarterback? Probably not. He's a gamer. But NMSU won the Little Caesars Bowl and then was favorites against Fresno State and got their ass kicked. That's not like that's a yearly thing. And I know UNM's I'm public. For a long time I was anti-Lobo football as a UNM alumni because of Mike Loxley and certain people that worked in that department. And now it's a breath of fresh air with, like I said, if you watch the show Enthusiasm. But I don't know where UNM and NMSU, this holier than thou thing, when winning cures all and they haven't won. That's my point. I'm probably going to ruffle a lot of feathers with that, but that's how, like, you won the Little Caesars Bowl or Quick Lane Bowl, and now you're national champions. Holy hell. UTEP covers the Southern New Mexico, West Texas TV market. I'm not sure NMSU brings, but that's the DMA. No, man, Cruces and UTEP are the DMA for El Paso. Those guys cover NMSU. It's not that far. John Romero, they were Gonzaga before Gonzaga was invented. NMSU has a Final Four banner in the Pan Am rafters. They do. They don't have that against NMSU. I think where Gonzaga has you is they've done it more recently in a bigger field and have played for a national championship twice. So that's my counter argument to that. I'm devil's advocate. I'm getting tired of talking. I bet you're getting tired of hearing me ramble. Next Friday night, April 18th, the UNM spring football game. We plan to blow UNM football out the ass next week. Tuesday, don't know what I have lined up. We'll figure that out. We'll announce that on the old X, or Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter. The player has no fame without the university. Well, basketball, can't you just go play in the G League? I mean, I don't know where you're getting that. I don't. And I understand that's their platform. But at the same time, it's probably indentured servitude. I don't understand why the NCAA limited what's the cream cheese on the bagel. It was a violation, how you can't make money, get a job in the off season is boggling my mind. I know they got a stipend, but I'm probably wrong on this, but get this whole unconstitutional shit out of here. I think that, you are earning, you are representing them, and you deserve to be played. That's how I feel. And again, you go to college to better yourself. That's what I thought. That's the way I feel. And even if you don't get a degree, then you go, you've still bettered yourself. You have been able to take care of yourself and your family. That's how I feel. Anyway, next week, we're going to a lot of Lobo football out the rear. Thursday, I know what I have scheduled. Ben Wysong is going to join us. Sean Ryder is going to join us, trying to figure out what we're going to do for Tuesday. Once again, go check out our YouTube page. If you missed the interview with Eric Olin, go to contract. I agree with that. Yeah. If you missed it Tuesday, go check it out. Eric Olin, Bo Hightower. Obviously, a lot of people zoning in on Eric Olin, the new UNM men's basketball coach, and then Bo Hightower. So great episode from Tuesday night. If you haven't subscribed, a lot of exclusive content we're trying to push out. Hopefully more soon. Pit Press Plus. Cost you a cup of coffee a day for a month. Appreciate Mark Ziggler from the San Diego Union-Tribune. Nick Copela, as always, from the Las Cruces Sun News. Ed Nunez for joining tonight. And as I always leave you with this, my name's Ryan Tamori on behalf of Eric Moulton. This is the Pit Press Live. Enjoy your weekend. Please don't do anything that I would do. And by the way, spring practice is Eric Olin on what Robert Portnoy says he's a boxer brief guy. I really don't listen to any other media outside of, I don't even listen to us. I listen to JJ and Jeff in the morning, and I listen to Jim Rome when I can. I haven't recently, so I didn't listen to the Lobo podcast, and I don't listen to Jeff Grammer stuff. It's not a knock. I just don't do it. Because sometimes I like to escape from this reality, but that's pretty funny. My new nickname for Eric Olin is, barely bogey golfer guy, Eric Olin. So not UNM head men's basketball coach. It was a great conversation with the other night, and we did get a lot of good feedback from it, which is true. Everybody have a good weekend. By the way, Lobo football practice is open. It's 10:40 to 12:30 on Saturday. It's open to the public. I mean, got to get excited for UNM football. Don't be that person that complains about traffic, because there is none there on a Saturday morning. Again, my name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good one.